We are live, and welcome to Wednesday Night Live with good friend and colleague Tom Dienhart. We're going to talk some Purdue football. We have some questions which aren't surprising, the fact that we do have a few already. Want to thank acrepro.com. We appreciate Kyle Spray and the good folks at AcrePro. When it comes to land sales, it pays to have experts in your corner. AcrePro Midwest Farm Group are your local farmland specialists with decades of experience, just like Tom Dienhart covering football, college football, I should say. But this happens to be in Indiana agriculture. No one knows the market better. Whether you're doing a 1031 exchange or simply buying and selling farmland, your local AcrePro agent will walk the land with you and absolutely ensure the deal is done right. Visit acrepro.com or call 765-775-6502. That number again, operators are standing by, 765-775-6502. All right, not surprising, Mr. Dienhart, we have some questions this week. A big shakeup. You chronicled it well, and we talked about that, and you pulled out Mo Ankney was a key word this week.
Mo Ankney.
1993, the last time Purdue replaced a coordinator in the middle of the season. It has replaced coordinators at the end of seasons in years past, but obviously with the move with Graham Harrell and just, a few days into it, you had a chance to be in front of Jason and talk to him, but what are your initial feelings about what kind of guy he is, and also what challenges he's going to have to get this going, get this offense out of reverse, really, or at least out of first gear come late Saturday morning, it should say, in Madison.
Just a good guy, Alan. Sort of salt of the earth kind of a guy. The guy you talk to over your backyard fence, to borrow a saw.
Yeah, there you go.
I've got to know him a little bit. When he got here and through training camp, he was always friendly and approachable, and we've had some brief conversations. I never envisioned this would be what he was doing a few months later, but here we are. Alan, shows you how crazy life is. But in talking to others in and around the program, he's a well-respected guy in that building. He was hired in March, so he hadn't been there but 7 months now, but he made an impression that short period of time, and Ryan talked about his ability to connect with younger people. Of course, all those years as a high school football coach, 23 years in the high school ranks, he learned how to deal with kids and adults, he said, as well. So, and smart. He comes off as a smart guy, comes off as a confident guy, Alan.
Yeah.
And he's got to have confidence. And a guy who seems like he's principled, too. He talked about raising his kids, how they turn them loose. They're going to let them forge their own path, and seems like he'd be a good dad. So, again, a good guy. He's got a big task in front of him here, Al. I don't think anybody expects miracles here, but sometimes a fresh approach, a fresh set of eyeballs can make the world a difference.
And it's going to have to, I think, if Purdue's going to get the job done. One would think. All right, we do have some questions, not surprising, and one of the ones I'm not sure what the answer is, and I'm not sure you'll know, but who is there? And maybe Ryan Walters did answer this, but Jim Garfinkel asked hit this question. Two things. One, who's the quarterback coach now?
It's Stanton Keene.
Yeah, that's right. He did talk about that.
Yeah, Ryan talked about that Monday. Stanton Keene is an analyst who was sort of Graham Harrell's right-hand man, if you will, attached at the hip to Graham Harrell in the quarterback room doing everything. So he's the guy that's sort of running that room at this point. Stanton was with Graham, I know, West Virginia, I think out at USC, so they had a pretty long relationship. That's the guy running that room now. And just a little more quick background, the new coordinator was working with the wide receivers for the most part. That was his job. That was sort of his task, working with Corey Patterson. And that was sort of what Jason was doing. I'd see him at practice sometimes throwing passes to get Cam Brown ready. So, but again, Stanton Keene's the guy running that quarterback room right now with Graham Harrell gone.
All right, good answer to that question. Jim's second question, I'll show here. Kane said Simmons was old school. What exactly does that mean? You kind of explained it. 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I don't think that's necessarily going to be the case. But you did talk about maybe, I know with Derek the other day, that maybe you will bring it down to maybe a little more running this week. And maybe it's a little bit on what Wisconsin will bring to the table too defensively. But what's your take there? Answering Jim's question about old school.
Old school, I think, in the way he just lives his life. It's, I guess I would think of Gene Katie and Joe Till as being old school people, right?
Yeah.
But how they were, how they carried themselves, and what their principles were and whatnot. And Jason has a lot of those same traits on the field schematically. Yeah, old school would lend you to think it's a guy that's going to be more, running the football, like you said, Alan. He's of course going to be smart enough to want to have a balanced attack. But I think we all know the strength of this Purdue offense so far. Has been the ability to run the football. So I think that's something they're going to want to try to build on. And like you said, it's going to depend on what defenses are giving them too, right? They're not going to force a square peg into a round hole. But I think you want to feature Devin Mockbee if you can. I think maybe, we may even see a little bit more Devin Mockbee.
Yeah.
Because right now the Reggie Love, Devin Mockbee carry splits are pretty close to 50-50. Devin's had a few bit more carries, but maybe we see that balance of scale a little bit more to Devin here moving forward. And see if they can build things off of that. So, again, but I think Jason's biggest task is going to be trying to pump some life into that passing game, Alan. Two big things. The ability to convert third downs into first downs. It's been pretty abysmal for Purdue. And also the ability to generate explosive plays in the pass game. Those have been two big issues for this offense. They have to try to figure out some way to, A, stay on the field, and B, get some big plays in the pass game, I think.
Yeah, and I think that really talks about, and also when you talk about, you can't fix it all. I mean, you're not going to wave any magic wand anyway. Mm-hmm. And Ryan talked about that as well. Maybe you're going to get a shot in the arm just with the change. They did, Ryan Walters talked very openly, I thought, about on Monday about Graham Harrell and the fact that this was not an easy decision for him, that he's well liked in the quarterback now in the whole locker or the whole Kozic Center, I should say. Mm-hmm. That it's hard to minimize what that means to kids, or players. You don't know on that front. Obviously, there's been a tremendous amount of disappointment in the offense, and that's why you make a change like this. I get it, but it's going to be an interesting thing. A little bit more background on Jason Simmons, coached at Ben Davis, came to Purdue from Miami of Ohio. Mm-hmm. He was at Noblesville also, I believe, following former Boilermaker Lance Shive. Is that right? Or was it the other way around? I'm not sure. But tell me anything else you know about him just in your travels.
Yeah, he's been a head coach at 3 different high schools. You mentioned Ben Davis in Noblesville. He's also a head coach at Hamilton Heights High School.
Right.
Again, 23 years in high school ranks, was an assistant. I know Ben Davis, I think Noblesville as well, too. I talked to a couple of people who've worked with him, talked to the the current Zionsville head coach, Scott Turnquist, this week to get some viewpoints on Jason. And I'm going to include him boiling over tomorrow. And Jason talked about, the messages he got on his cell phone this week, 188 unread texts.
Yeah, I like that.
He said there were 2 people that he didn't reach out to, 2 sort of close friends of his, and it's always interesting to see what people lean on. One's a guy named Steve Sturren, who's the head coach at I think it was North Decatur Central High School, and the other one's a player agent named Justin Ferris. He used to be involved in high school football in the Indianapolis area. 2 guys he trusts a lot. And I texted with Justin a little bit today. He says he and Jason talk almost every day. And Justin is the agent for Sanusi Kane. He was the agent for Reese Taylor. He's been the agent for several Boilermakers of late. So a very interesting guy who's based in Indianapolis. So, yeah, Jason went to Miami of Ohio. He graduated in 1999. He was defensive lineman there. His head coach was the late Randy Walker.
Right.
He went to Northwestern and passed away. And the coordinators, when Jason was there, I was talking to him off camera today about that. And Terry Hepner was on that staff as a coordinator. Of course, he went on to coach Indiana and passed away. And a big guy was Kevin Wilson, who, of course, left with Randy to Northwestern. And Kevin really, man, if you remember what Randy had going in Evanston, that spread offense, Kevin Wilson was his coordinator. So those were some of the people that he played under at Miami were big influences. And I also asked, Jason about how Purdue even contacted him about becoming an analyst. And Ryan called him out of the blue and told him about this opportunity. And I said, what were your connections to the staff? Because he didn't know Ryan from Adam.
Yeah.
And, he replaced Lamar Kennard as running backs coach in Miami of Ohio. So he knew Lamar.
Yeah.
He said he knew Joseph when Noah was an assistant coach at Indiana under Kevin Wilson, later Tom Allen. I guess they would go to Indiana to clinic and whatnot. So those are the two people that Jason knew about. Must have put in a good word for him as well. So again, a guy who's well connected in the state too. Al knows all the high school coaches, and the kind of guy that can just be an asset to any staff. And like I was talking to people, how crazy life can be. Who could have envisioned this in 7 months? How your life can change, and good things happen to good people. I think a lot of times, and they always say there's no such thing in luck in life. And Alan, I was always told luck is where opportunity and preparation meet.
That's right.
Luck, and he's obviously been a guy who's always been prepared, and he's a guy that's going to be able to seize this opportunity, I think. And again, we all know it's an uphill battle. We all know the history of Wisconsin. We all know what Purdue's up against this year offensively, but maybe he can give him a little bit of a lift here. Like I said, bring some new ideas, a new set of eyeballs. He's going to be working in the press box. I asked him if he was going to have one guy who was on the sideline that was sort of his eyes on the sideline that he was in constant communication with. He made it sound like everybody on the staff was going to be throwing in their 2 cents. So we'll see how that works. So again, it's going to be interesting to see what tweaks he can make. And like you said, Alan, it's not like you can have wholesale changes as you're going into what the second month of the season at this point. You are sort of what you are, but you can make some alterations, hopefully, accentuate and improve what you're doing.
Yeah, just execute, baby. I think that's probably be a good thing. All right, a question from Ted Berkey. An open-ended one. I think what can we do? Well, I don't think you and I or Ted can do anything to help out Purdue's offensive line protect better. But what does Purdue need to do from a scheme standpoint? Hudson Card has struggled, though. He had some good throws last week when he had time. But do you move him around a little bit more if you're the OC? What do you try to do? And maybe you're past the point of, and I'm not being flippant about this, but maybe you're past the point of worrying a little bit too much about him getting injured. You just got to find a way to make the move the chains on third down, like you talked about earlier.
Like you said, I think people have talked about having them roll out, getting them on the run, moving the pocket, Allen, quick passes, screens, slants, get the ball out of your hand quickly. Throw those horizontal passes, almost extended handoffs, if you will. Just get the ball out of your hand quick. You can't execute the 5 and 7 step drops and wait for the pocket to form and guys to get downfield.
Right.
You want to take your shots at some point. But again, I think, like I said, the quick slants, the screens, rollouts, moving pocket, horizontal passes, throw to the running backs. I think those are the types of things. Just get the ball out of Hudson's hands and get it in the playmaker's hands, ideally, Allen, in space, and let those guys use their skill set. Now, Jamal Edwin was out there practicing today. Initially, we were told he was going to be a 3 or 4 week guy. No assumption that he's going to play or not, but that anytime you paddle up and going through practice, that has to be a positive thing, right? I think C.J. Smith is out for sure. Like I said before, Allen, I'm not sure we're going to see him all year. And then that brings me to my point, Alan. Where are the playmakers? Yeah. And we need to see more from this wide receiving core. Cam Brown, the freshman, Shamar Rigby, Jaden Dixon-Veal, who was out last week, is another one.
Expected to be back, though, right?
He just got to be back. Dron Tibbs. Yeah. On it goes. These guys got to start stepping up. Denylon Morissette, another kid from Georgia. These guys need to start stepping up, I think, Alan. And also try to find a way. Everybody knows you want to throw the ball to Max Clare. We get it. But still try to find a way to be creative, to get the ball in his hands in any way, shape, or form with 5 to 7 targets a game, if not more. So, again, that's where maybe Jason has some ideas. Maybe he has some wrinkles that can maybe make those receivers more effective and make Max Clare more effective. Like you said, too, Alan, get more out of Hudson Card. I think we all know he's better than what we've seen. I sometimes don't think this scheme really played to his strengths and allowed him to show all he can do. I think there's a level of frustration there. If he's honest, if Hudson's honest with you, he'd tell you that. He would never say that publicly. So again, I think he's eager maybe to see what Jason can do as well.
Yeah. We had a comment here from John Hawks. Heard Graham Harrell is up for a quarterback coach at Oklahoma. I don't have any idea about that, but I do think Graham is a young guy. You know, guys, you know, sometimes when it's your darkest moments, you learn how to reevaluate and move on. Graham has certainly got a football pedigree, background, whatever and a lot of network. He's been places. My guess is you're going to see Graham Harrell again somewhere. Maybe not right away, but it's not the end of his career.
He's only 39 years old. My God, Alan, he's a good-looking guy. He's got his youth. He's got a young family. He's had some great jobs for a guy who's not even 40 years old yet. I mean, he's at USC for crying out loud. He's at West Virginia. He's been at Purdue. He started at Washington State under Michael Leach as a coach. So, yeah, I mean, he's got a heck of a start in his career. He's done a lot of great things already. And, you know, everything's a learning experience. What are you going to learn from this experience? And don't let it define you. Whenever we have failure, don't let it define you. See what you can learn from it and see how you can get better. And like you said, I think Graham will be okay. An iconic college quarterback. We all know that. Familiar with that legacy in Lubbock. Had a little cup of coffee, a little bit more than a cup of coffee in the NFL. He got a Super Bowl ring. So he's had a real charmed life, Alan. Just didn't work out here. It just didn't work out for here, which is unfortunate. It seemed like a nice hire, didn't it?
Yeah.
To bring in this coach with the quarterback background and the air raid offense could complement Ryan's airstrike defense. And a Texan, first thing he does, they pick him up, they bring him to Grant, and Ryan brings him to Texas. They go visit Hudson Card, and bang, you know, it just didn't work out. And then sometimes that's life.
Yeah. Andrew Podolsky, a longtime Gold and Black friend, so to speak, had a good question that we kind of already hit on. Do you see a big improvement coming? Will this get Card on track? Tom kind of addressed that, but that is it. I mean, Purdue's got to find a way to move the football and score. You just can't do what Purdue's been doing and be competitive. You're going to go 1-11 if that's the case. And I think that states the obvious there. From that standpoint. Okay, you did some research. We don't want to be too negative about things, but kind of interesting on the 17-game losing streak to Wisconsin. We actually found an error in the Big Ten media guide. I didn't hear back from them. It is now the 7th or 8th longest streak in Big Ten history. That's not a pleasant thing if you're Purdue. Purdue has one of those streaks, 20 straight wins against Iowa, 1961 to 1980. But that is a difficult thing. You chronicled that. Wouldn't it be funny in a game you would least expect Purdue to win that the Boilermakers would put? But that streak's, that it kind of defines where Purdue is because where the program is. If you look back. Last win in Ross-Ade, 1997. I think we both had more hair then. 2003, it was ESPN Game Day. I remember that game. I remember Arnett Tiller being on the set or waving to Kirk Herbstreit on the sideline the day that Kyle Orton threw 55 passes, I believe. Purdue gets out of that game with a win on a Ben Jones game winner in the last minute. But it's been pretty salty. The game the following year, no Purdue fan wants to even hear this, but that 2004 game really probably if you're going to look back in the year 2095 at the arc of Purdue football, 2004, that date, October 16, 2004, with about 2 minutes and 30 seconds left. And the Kyle Orton fumble. As good a player as Kyle Orton was, that was just a the toughest loss I think you could ever have to be part of if you're a Purdue fan.
Yeah, you're right, Alan. It was tough. And it's funny, that last win, 2003 in Madison, that was actually Purdue's second win in a row in that series.
That's right.
And now, not to go back too much in the series, but you got me. You were talking. I thought about 1998 in Madison when Drew Brees threw like 85 passes. Remember that game?
55 for 83. Randall Lane had what? It was a Big Ten record at the time that Chris Daniels broke later that season. No, later the following season. But he had Lane had 16 or 17 catches, as I recall, Matt.
And
but it was pick sixes that got Drew Brees that day.
Yeah.
I think it was Jamar Fletcher had a pick six.
NFL player.
And did the Boilermakers in on and so wasn't that somebody said that was the first day of jump around?
May have been, could have been the origin of
it. It was a night game in Camp Randall, and of course a bitter loss for Purdue. I mean, Purdue had a couple bitter losses. Obviously, they've had 17, but I remember 98, 99, the home game where a couple late turnovers hurt Purdue, and I think Fletcher had another interception in that game, maybe pick six. But 2001, we got to think, or excuse me, 2000, you got to look at happy memories. Former Gold and Black intern Craig Terrell. He was a lot more than that, but he had the big block and Ashante Woodyard scoop and score for Purdue to win that game in overtime, and really helped Purdue make its way to the Rose Bowl with the win. So it can happen in Madison. It would be quite the surprise this week.
Yeah, it would. And 2004, 2024, 20 years, 17 games in 20 years, Alan. And that was the tipping point of Purdue football. I think we all can agree that dubious day in October 2004, the Orton fumble game. How many winning seasons has Purdue had since then? Maybe 5.
Yeah.
And so they've never been able to
2006, 2007, 17. Technically not 18, right? Because they lost in the bowl game.
Yeah, they were 6 and 7 that year. So
but
again, they've never been.
Point is not very many.
No,
You're
not
right.
many, and it's unfortunate. And people forget about this. Somebody responded to my tweet on that story with a video of this. But after that Orton fumble, the scoop and score, Purdue got the ball back with a chance to tie on a 42-yard field goal
by Ben Jones.
He missed it. He missed it bad. A 42-yard field goal. So that game could have been sent into overtime. And there was also a potentially dropped interception too, that it would have been big for Purdue as well. But we can't revisit history, but people forget about that. Missed field goal there. Not to pile
that, and Kyle Smith, who was a former walk-on quarterback, was a very good defensive back. Yeah, and that was just a tough. He had one in his sights. If he makes that catch, the game's over. But again, things didn't happen that way, and I'd like to if I'm a Purdue fan, I'd like to wash that from my memory. We'd hate to bring that up, but that's the way it is. All right, question from Nolan about, and Ryan mentioned this a little bit this week, I thought, but how much will Ryan Walters be involved in the offense? I got the impression he was going to peek his head in a little bit more this week. Tell me what you think.
Yeah, that's sort of the impression I got too, and Jason talked about that a little bit as well. Think about the perspective a defensive coach can bring.
Yeah,
I mean, he can offer you pointers on what makes things difficult for defenses, and he can be a valuable resource. Obviously, I know Ryan's got his plate full with a lot of things, but I was like you, Alan. I got the impression that it's not going to be like he's spending 8 hours a day with the offensive meeting rooms, but he's going to be more involved than usual, I think. And there's a lot more at stake. Let's be honest. I guess you have to be careful not to become a micromanager too. I think that would maybe be my inclination. If I saw things spiraling downhill, I would panic and suddenly want to control everything, and you can't do that. But it's easy for me to say I'm not under that kind of a pressure. But I'll give Ryan and give the staff some credit even before last weekend going into the game Saturday against Nebraska. They were trying different things schematically. Offensively, Alan, if you noticed, they were huddling up more. I think that was a nod to try to slow the pace down, to slow the offense down, and also allow them not to have to signal in plays to a lesser degree than you can't get your signal stolen. But again, that was a conscious decision to huddle up more. I think you may see them continue to do that. Before, of course, they never huddled. And we also saw in a few series them bring in Bakeem Coley as a sort of a sixth offensive lineman, number 78, a guy they like a lot. So in a way to sort of just augment that line's ability to block. And of course, defensively, we saw the move of Dylan Thieneman closer to the line. That was partly due to Antonio Stevens' injury, but it also was done to get Thieneman quicker or more involved in the play, closer to the action as well. And I think that was pretty well received. I think we probably could see that again here coming up. We also saw Kydron Jenkins, number 4, spend a lot of time at rush end. And again, that was partly due to the injury. C.J. Madden is probably out for the year, I think. And so KJ saw a lot of reps, and they like Winston Berglund, inside linebacker. I think they can trust him and Yanni. So I think we're going to see more KJ playing probably the spot he's best suited to play, Alan. You want to get your best 11 players on the field. And KJ's best spot is rush in. And this season, it's reached DEFCON 5. You can't worry about NFL careers right now. Purdue's just trying to win games. They need players at their best spots, I think.
Yeah, Tim Potts, I answered your question there. Purdue's going to have to be better defensively. They, Nebraska, 2 block field goals. I thought Nebraska shot itself in the foot a little bit in the first half, but Purdue did the job too. I mean, what was it? The first scoreless tie after a half in 31 years for Purdue football.
1993.
And that's was something from that standpoint. But Purdue's obviously going to, as a near a double-digit dog, 13-point underdog. It's tough to win on the road when you're at any time, but no one's expecting them to get the job done. And I think also in a question, go ahead from John.
Wisconsin's a desperate team too, Alan.
No question, and they laid an egg in the second half against SC. But go ahead.
And then their fans are a little upset too with Luke Fickell. So there's an equal amount of desperation up on that opposing sideline too.
It's interesting about Fickell and also about coaches. And here Fickell got to Cincinnati to the college football playoff. He coached Ohio State in his interim year, or in the year that and Purdue beat them. Remember on the Robert Marve sneak when Fickell and the Buckeyes, can you imagine going 6-7 for Ohio State there? I believe they were that year. But point is, it's funny how things change, I think you talked about guys getting comfortable where they are. Luke Fickell made a distinct decision, an intentional decision to go away from what Wisconsin does, at least initially, does best and has done going all the way back to Barry Alvarez, and that, pound the football, be physical. Not that they don't want to be that way, but they wanted to throw it a little bit more. And it just hasn't worked out just yet to the way that Badger fans would like. And
now, of course, they've lost their starting quarterback for the year. And, I know the questioner was asking about the defense improvement. It definitely has to get better. We know that for sure. Still no takeaways. And we asked, I kind of kidded Kevin Kane this week. Are you sick of people asking you when you're going to get your first takeaway? And it's not like they're not coaching it. They practice all that stuff. Sometimes those are funny things, but they're well aware they're the only team, I think, in FBS that yet to have a takeaway this year. One other thing, Alan, too, I asked Kevin about this. We noticed it watching the game. They did play more zone defense.
Yeah.
That defense is predicated on being real physical, playing a lot of press man coverage, being aggressive and blitzing, and that's a sort of a high risk, high reward defense. Unfortunately for Purdue, it's usually high risk, and then they give up some big plays. But they backed off some to mix things up last week. Saw some 3-man rushes, 8-man drops. There was mixed results, but the point being is they're not so stubborn where they're not going to deviate from their precious scheme, and they're going to try different things. So we saw several examples on both sides of the ball last week of some changes, some alterations with personnel or schemes to try to shake things up and just get a different result.
All right. Well, we'll have more from Gold and Black. Gold and Black Radio will be it will drop on Friday morning. Gold and Black Live also this weekend. Mr. Dienhart every week has got he talks it out before we get done. We'll have a little bit of that as well, and of course Tom's coverage. Where are you staying? I mean, you don't have to give the exact location. Are you staying in Madison? Janesville. Beautiful.
That's the best I could do without it being $1,000 a night.
The company thanks you very much for being willing to do it. But it is a great place to go to a college football game. It is
I love West Lafayette. You know that, Alan. This is my city, but I tell you what, Madison, Wisconsin, pretty nice, my friend. Pretty nice.
Yeah, I have enjoyed a few games. It's been a long time since I've been up there, but it is truly a great town and a great atmosphere.
You're like this, Alan. I think I was in the press box with you that day, 1988 in Madison, Wisconsin. There were probably 15,000 people there.
That might have been the worst college football game ever.
Don Morton was coaching with the Purdue one like 9-3.
9-6.
I was there.
All I remember about that game was crowd. You know what the crowd was? 37,000.
Yeah, it was
Can you imagine that? And of course, John Morton came in from Wyoming, right? Ran the option. Fred Akers. Purdue was just, it was like, I thought it could have ended up in a 0-0 tie. But all I remember after that game, you and I were there, is I think they did the Budweiser song, and they were running through doing the meandering on the AstroTurf at the time.
Yeah,
they still had fun, but they only had a half full stadium, and Purdue got out of there amazingly with a win. Fred Akers
a long time ago
did not have very many wins on the road as a Boilermaker head coach. So
the late Fred Akers. Allen, I'll let you go after this. Allen, he did have the last Purdue win at Ohio State that same year.
Absolutely. Ernie Strohmeyer. We may bring that baby up come November when Purdue might be a 39-point underdog, and that's not no discredit to Purdue. That's as good as Ohio State is, because man, they are really, really good. We'll see how they do against Iowa this week, but they're a pretty good football team. All right, Tom, thanks so much for your time. We are grateful for that. We are grateful also to Kyle Spray and the good folks at Acre Pro. Call them at 765-775-6502 when you need to start doing a 1031 exchange or simply buying and selling farmland. Your local Acre Pro agent will walk the land, and it is going to be a beautiful 7-8 days here. I think in the Lafayette area, it's starting to look like fall, feel like fall. It's a good time to go out and walk the farmland, so to speak, because it's going to be nice here. Thanks to all of you. A lot of good questions. That really good show tonight. We appreciate those as well, and we will. If you joined us late, we also do post this. This will post to YouTube, and we'll also put it on our podcast as well for those of you to listen to. Again, thanks to acrepro.com. Thanks to Tom Dienhart, and we'll see you next week on Wednesday Night Live.